He's like the CJ. He's like CJ Spiller. Like we talk him up every offseason, like he's going to do something, and he never does much, and we waste picks on him. I'm done caring about Shane Vereen.
You're listening to Let's Talk Fantasy Football, where men of fantasy genius have realized, hey guys, we don't need real football skills to dominate on the fantasy field. Yeah. So slap on your pads and grab your helmet. Shit's about to get real.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Let's Talk Fantasy Football. I am your host, Nick Schreck, and joining me tonight, and apparently I can't reference anyone as my favorite anymore, joining me is the Don himself, Don Chrisman. How you doing tonight, bud?
Dude, why did I get announced first?
Why not?
I'm always second.
My bad. So let's back that intro up. Joining me tonight he is known now as the Maine in the North, Mr. Vinny Gonzalez. How you doing tonight, bud?
Ooh, I like that nickname, Schreck. Thanks. I'm doing all right. What about you?
Yeah, doing well. I'll be even better after we introduce our next guest here, the Don himself, Don Chrisman. Don, how you doing, bud?
Dude, getting better vibes now. Thanks.
That's what we're looking for. We're looking for good vibes. Don's in the groove. Guys, he told me he did hours of prep in advance of tonight's show, so he's excited for tonight's episode. Guys, we're sponsored by NoHalftime.com. The No Halftime app isn't your typical fantasy sports service. You get to create one-on-one fantasy matchups. Use code LTFF for a free sign-up bonus. So, guys, tonight we're going to go through some NFL news really quick. We're going to talk about the NFC East, but only two teams tonight, and we'll, of course, hit Ed's question of the week. But before we jump into NFL news and everything else, guys, we want to take a second and send our condolences out there. Buddy Ryan, he was the architect of perhaps the greatest defense in NFL history. Ryan's patented 46 defense. The 1985 Chicago Bears allowed just 12.4 points a game in the regular season and a total of 10 points during their three-game run to a Super Bowl title. He passed away at 82. And, guys, we also want to give our condolences out here to Pat Summitt, who won more games than anyone in college basketball history, man or woman, died early Tuesday, 5 years since being diagnosed with early onset dementia in the form of Alzheimer's. The legendary coach never had a losing record in 38 seasons, and she passed away at 64. So two big influences here in the sports world. Kind of doesn't matter what you follow, but two big names, two big figures, and we're sorry to see them go. But the show must go on, guys. So from here, we're going to jump into some quick NFL news. We've got some more news bits as we go through part of the NFC East. Let's start here. We'll jump back into New England. Danny Amendola, he had knee and ankle surgeries, guys. We know that. He says he feels really good. It's June 22nd. I think him saying he feels really good is just that. It's just words. We'll see what happens with him in New England. Do you guys agree?
Yeah, basically. A whole lot of whatever.
The Chinaman.
The Chinaman lives on. So we'll see what he can do here in 2016. Guys, ESPN Cleveland's Tony Grassi calls Robert Griffin III's offseason underwhelming. It's kind of surprising. I mean, Cleveland football, for the most part, hasn't really been overwhelming. So to hear RG3 is kind of underperforming there, I guess he fits in with the culture. Not that we expect anything, I guess, necessarily from him for fantasy, but kind of sad to see, I think. We watched him be really good in Washington there before I got hurt, and now he can't even cut it with the Browns.
That's a little bit of a bummer.
I thought once LeBron brought home the championship that everyone would just turn automatically good. And, Cleveland would be good no matter what team it was. The Indians are going to win the World Series. The Browns are going to go to playoffs.
I like how you said they weren't going to win the Super Bowl. They would just make the playoffs, and that's
well, I mean, that's an ultimate victory right there.
That's generally good enough if you're a Browns fan.
Yeah,
the playoffs is a Super Bowl victory, I think.
They might just have to recruit LeBron.
LeBron to play for the Browns. Hey, he'd be better than a lot of guys they already have on that roster.
I would draft him.
Don, where would you peg LeBron's ADP?
1 overall, dude. Duh, he's the king.
Can't argue with that at all.
You don't mess with the king. Guys, let's go to Buffalo. Really, go ahead, Don. I'm sorry. Definitely 1 overall. Just wanted to see if we were on different wavelengths.
Carry on.
Guys, up in Buffalo, in an interview with ESPN's Vaughn McClure, Sammy Watkins, who has that foot injury, was non-committal about his status for training camp. think it's a little bit scary. Obviously, it's still early. He has time to heal. He'll get out there and practice, but he's a guy that's been really banged up. He's really talented. He's won people a lot of fantasy games, but he's been really, really banged up. So I think he's an interesting name to watch through the offseason here as we get closer to drafts in August.
Yeah, I think Sammy Watkins is going to be that dude that's sliding in virtually every draft, especially if he's not ready for training camp or anything like that. We're talking preseason games and the other off-season programs. So going to have to watch Sammy Watkins. Dude's very talented, so he's worthy of where he's going right now, but I'm imagining he's not going to be going there once drafts start in August.
Yeah, I agree. I'm if you don't know, I'm a person of consistency, and with his injuries being the only thing that's consistent, I'm someone I like to stay away from Sammy Watkins even with the upside. So that would be someone where he'd really have to fall in a good spot for me to be comfortable. I mean, listen, I know why people go for him. He's got that the ability to do well, but the risk is just too much for me.
Yeah, I'm with you, Don. All right, guys, we'll talk about the Jaguars really quickly. Unfortunately, Don, we're not talking about TJ Tasty, but Hayes Carline of the Florida Times-Union expects Julius Thomas to score double-digit touchdowns this season, guys. We're big tight end roulette guys here. Do you believe that this is insanity coming out of Florida?
Nah, dude, I like it.
I'm with Don on this one. I've been pumping myself up on Julius Thomas. I was waiting till we got to the Jaguars, but he's going as the 10th tight end right now, and I'm all about that. He's going super late, so I'm trying to trick myself into loving Julius Thomas this season. So hearing that is pretty cool.
I'm definitely going to go to a Jacksonville game this year.
Don, you've just been slowly descending into madness. Like you love the Jaguars.
I don't know. It's like I don't know. I'm cool with Julius Thomas getting double-digit touchdowns. I think Blake Bortles is going to have a year with these guys.
I'm looking forward to the live podcast from the pool in Jacksonville with Don. I really am.
I think it has to happen at this point. Like I've gone too far for to not do it.
I think you've mentioned it every podcast you've been on. You just want to go to Jacksonville, go in the pool, enjoy the team, stadium.
I might just have to move there. I'll be an on-site reporter of just the Jacksonville Jaguars for Let's Talk Fantasy Football.
Reporting exclusively for Let's Talk Fantasy Football.
From the jacuzzi at the southbound end zone here.
Hey, it could be a good segment. It could be a very good segment. We'll have fans nationwide tuning in.
I mean, seeing me in a jacuzzi in Jacksonville Jaguars, not bad, man.
Not bad at all, Don. Not bad at all. Guys, let's get into the NFC East, and we're going to start here with the Cowboys. Let's start with our man, Tony Romo. Injured last year, guys. Right now he's coming up the board. Again, guys, all our ADPs tonight, they're coming to you for PPR scoring in 12-man leagues. Those ADPs are coming courtesy of fantasyfootballcalculator.com. So Tony Romo, guys, he's coming up the board with the third pick in the 10th round. So obviously he's pretty far down there. He got hurt last year. Excluding last season, guys, though, Romo was a top 12 fantasy scorer in 7 of the previous 8 years. The only season he failed to do so was another that was cut short by injury. So he's been relatively consistent with at least being a fantasy performer to that extent. I think the passing volume this year is going to be a little worrisome. You look, Dallas trailed in over 66% of their second half snaps. Last year was the 6th highest in the league. They only attempted the 23rd most passes, I think. They drafted Ezekiel Elliott there in the first round. They got a good offensive line. Protecting Romo's a priority. I think they run the hell out of the ball. And I don't know if the volume's going to be there for Romo to be the dependable guy.
Yeah, very fair, Schreck. I was going to say tempering expectations on Romo big time. Just because they're going to try and keep him healthy, Romo's going to take care of the ball. The chance of him having a lot of 3-touchdown games this year is, I'm going to say, pretty low. He'll still be very effective. I think he'll take care of the ball a lot more because I think with the play action, with the run game that they're going to have this year is going to be a lot better. So I think he'll be just very consistent, kind of floating around that 16 points a week. So it's not anything that's bad, but it's not anything that's going to necessarily win you weeks if you're going to go out there and get Romo as your QB1.
Yeah, you got to remember too. Everyone's getting older too. He's older, and he's injury prone. You got one of his main targets is Jason Witten, who's older. they don't really have anyone else other than Dez, who I think is going to have a bounce back here, but not worry about him staying on the field, and on top of that, he doesn't have the receivers, really, other than Dez and an older Jason Witten. So there's only so much you can expect. And they got three big running backs that they're going to be working on. I think they're really going to be working on their running game. You're going to see a decline in performance by, or productivity fantasy-wise for Romo. And, again, that's still if he stays fully healthy. I kind of targeted him in the where we were playing some of the quarterbacks last year, where we'd pick him up on a good matchup, but not really on a roster. Like when Jameis Winston had a really good matchup or whatever it may be, or Kirk Cousins before he went off, and then everyone wanted to add him on the team. But, playing that really good matchup. So I think that's kind of where I'd put Tony Romo right now this year.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think, we've all kind of hit on it, but Don, you kind of said they're going to make the running game a focus. And I think that's an important point. And I think that obviously here brings us to Ezekiel Elliott. Cowboys go out, they draft him this year in the first round. Right now, guys, he's got an ADP of the third pick in the second round. DallasCowboys.com's David Hellman believes the number 4 overall pick will finish with roughly 280 to 300 carries this year. So obviously a huge workload for what they're expecting from him. I think he's on his way to a true 3-down role behind a dominant offensive line. According to Pro Football Focus, they rate them as their number 1 offensive line in the league. You saw McFadden go for the 4th most rushing yards in the league last year behind that line, and we'll talk about McFadden. We've been McFadden's biggest supporters, I think, anywhere. But I think the reality is that the hype is all here. It's all around Elliott. He looked really good in college. A fact, guys, I want to tell you really quick is Pro Football Focus. I just did a mock draft recently in their draft guide. He was the number 2 pick in that draft behind Antonio Brown. So, you look at his ADP here, right now, and he's the 3rd pick in the second round. I got to think that's going to continue to climb as we go into August now.
Oh, it's going to skyrocket. And yeah, the 3rd pick in the second round is not going to stay, probably even by tomorrow. It's just going to continue to rise. And like you said, that happened in one of your mock drafts that you were doing. He went the 2nd overall pick. People are just going to start doing that shit. A lot of people, I think there's going to be one guy in every league that's going to jump and take him in the 1st round. There's not a chance he makes it out of the 1st, I think, in most fantasy drafts, just because the hype on him is ridiculous and the setting is perfect. Like, I like Ezekiel Elliott, I really do. I'm just not going to pay that price tag this year in the 1st round. I just can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I think, when we first started off back up for this upcoming season with our podcast, and I think we're all kind of on the same page where we thought that he was a little overrated, but I mean, everyone is blowing Ezekiel Elliott like steam up his ass right now. He's going to be, this dominant rusher. He was a good ball player in college, and then you can't undermine that offensive line. I mean, DeMarco Murray 2 years ago was their leading rusher. Look what Darren McFadden, who really hasn't had that great of a career, what he did last year. So there's a lot of pieces that are going to help him on top of his own talent. And they really like Ezekiel Elliott. They're really invested in him. So I think, he's not going to have a bust year. I don't see that happening. So he can maybe very well just have this year that everyone's saying. So my thoughts and opinions, I don't know if he's going to be number 2 in my thought overall, but I don't think he's going to go outside of the 1st round, that's for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's going to skyrocket into that 1st round. But, I've warmed on his spot there. If he were to stay at that 3rd pick in the 2nd round, I mean, if you could go, if you were in a 12-man draft, I mean, you could go Lamar Miller, Ezekiel Elliott as your 1-2, and then grab a wide receiver. I mean, your number 1 would be like Jarvis Landry, Brandon Cooks, whatever. But, I'd be okay with a Lamar Miller, Ezekiel Elliott there if I'm in, a 12-team league on the swing. I definitely would want him to be my 1 as he rises through that 1st round. But, I've warmed on him if I could get him in his current ADP.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the problem. It's not going to sit here. The more this guy sees the field and the more preseason action he sees, it's just going to keep going up and further into the 1st round, I think.
Yeah,
yep.
As long as he stays healthy throughout the preseason and all that, absolutely.
What's there not to love behind that offensive line? Guys, so let's talk about a guy who we've loved with all of our heart. And last year, he finally returned some of that love. He saw the glances we were giving him from across the room, and unfortunately, it seems like it's going to go south now. We still love him, but Darren McFadden. He's not the guy that he could have been if they didn't take Ezekiel Elliott there in the first round. Guys, his current ADP, 9th pick in the 10th round. Last year he had 239 attempts for 1,089 yards. He's injured right now. Elliott's going to be the guy, I think, in Dallas. So, what do you think? What do you think about McFadden here? Is there any value, or does he need an injury to really be relevant?
Yeah, not much is going to go in Darren McFadden's favor this season, I think. Just because, like you said, it's Elliott's show to run basically, and he's hurt. He had surgery recently. I think you guys were saying before when we started. So
yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I just want to know if the cell phone broke or not when he went to catch it.
And it's a fair question.
Which apparently isn't true. He apparently said now he was at a party or something I was just reading it. Celebrate. I think it was a family, or a friend, after a funeral. They were at someone's house and he slipped on the cement, and just broke his elbow. So I don't know. Very weird, but shitty situation for him and shitty time since there's 3 of them there, and Ezekiel Elliott is literally the next best thing since sliced bread over there in Dallas. So.
True.
That he is. I think we look at McFadden, guys, and we see that he's in a shitty situation. I think Alfred Morris is in an even shittier situation. I think I look at Alfred Morris. He's got an ADP at the 5th pick in the 12th round. He looked valuable, I think, prior to Elliott being drafted, but I think he for sure needs an injury to be somewhat relevant because of McFadden's injury history and everything else. But if Ezekiel Elliott stays healthy, I don't know. I wonder if McFadden and Morris both make the roster.
Yeah, I'm going to say that by the time the season starts, Elliott will be number 1 on the depth chart, and then it'll be the backup will be Morris. I can't see Darren McFadden being on the team after this, and he's getting up there in age too. So I kind of see McFadden getting cut and Morris taking the second back role. And then, where he's going right now at RB 50, was it the 5th pick in the 12th round?
Yep.
It could be a nice value for a handcuff on Elliott, number 1, and number 2, like you were saying, an injury to Elliott or anything like any kind of freak thing that happens throughout the season. He could just kind of walk into that situation that everybody's loving Elliott for. So, before the Redskins really boned him last year and stopped giving him carries, he didn't have a season where he didn't get over 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns. So, and Alfred Morris is 27 years old, he's in the prime right now. So I'm probably going to own a lot of Alfred Morris, especially if he stays where he's at in the 12th round, right in the middle.
Yeah, I agree with Vinny with a lot of it. One, as you were saying, he's in his prime, but you're saying McFadden's older. McFadden's actually only a year older at 28. But
are you serious?
Yeah, but with a more beaten up NFL career with his injury. So on top of that, if you just erase last year for Alfred Morris, he's still a pretty good back. That's proved a lot with the Redskins other than last year. So, and again, don't forget that he's going to be running behind the Cowboys' offensive line, even as rotating in as that second running back, whatever it may be. I really like him, especially as a handcuff if I'm an Ezekiel Elliott owner, because God forbid if Ezekiel Elliott does get hurt, Alfred Morris can actually have a good year getting behind the Cowboys' offensive line, and that could be the case because he's a good runner. Just a bad last season.
Yeah.
So, and he's young, like Vinny said, he's only 27. So it's not like he's an old guy that got beaten up in the league.
Yeah, I agree. We'll have to see what happens with McFadden, if he's cut, or what happens with that roster. I think if McFadden is gone, I'm on board fully with you guys. He's the guy. Anybody behind that offensive line. We watched McFadden do it last year. He performed. And they have Lance Dunbar is coming back from that big injury, but I agree Morris is going to be the guy. But do you guys everybody else in the running game you want to talk to, or are you ready to jump over to Dez?
I might just suit up for Dallas on that O-line.
Ooh, Don coming out of retirement. Here we go.
Yeah, boys.
Hey. All right, so let's talk about Dez. Throw up the X. Guys, Dez finishes a top 5 wide receiver in 3 consecutive seasons, 2012 to 2014. Romo's back. They've got a great offensive line. As Elliott's there, I think Dez is going to be just fine. Romo's going to get the ball to him. Ball's going to go up, and that running game should, I think, help. pretty well. Right now, he's the 10th pick in the first round, so right at the very, very end there.
Yeah.
Yes. When Dez is healthy, he's arguably a top 3 wide receiver in the league. So bring on some Dez, going to have a huge bounce back year. And like we said earlier with Romo, we expect him to not have like a gigantic year. That doesn't really touch Dez Bryant's numbers. Like he's still going to get a lot of touchdowns. He's still going to get a lot of yards. Dez Bryant will be totally fine.
Yeah, he's going to be a lot of Romo's points.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. He'll be like 60% of Romo's points.
That Romo gets like 60 points.
All right, so we all agree Dez is legit. I actually do want to ask you guys. We look at Dez. He's right now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 6th wide receiver off the board. So, Don, let's start with you. Would you prefer Dez Bryant or AJ Green?
I'm gonna go AJ Green.
Vinny?
Yeah, I would also go AJ Green.
All right, I would as well. AJ is currently being drafted 8 overall. Dez Bryant or DeAndre Hopkins for both of you?
DeAndre.
Yeah, I'm really high on Hopkins. I feel bad for Dez though. These are unfair questions, Schreck.
Well, I'm just trying to put it in perspective. I mean, you're looking at 6 wide receivers in the first 10 pick. I really like Perryman this year. I think he's got the shot. He's got a shot. Allen Robinson, Dez Bryant.
Oh, Dez, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Dez.
Okay, so I think he's priced about right. He's 10th. He's the 6th wide receiver off the board. That seems to be consensus of where he should be.
Schreck, I noticed you didn't answer that question. Would you take Allen Robinson or Dez Bryant? I know you love you some Robinson there.
Dez.
All right, at least you're sane still.
I am still saying I love Allen Robinson, but I'm not. Trust me, when I fall in love like that, it always goes south. So I can't fall that head over heels with him.
I'm just checking.
Zach Stacy's a great running back.
Dude, I love Zach Stacy. I have no problem with admitting my faults. I was wrong. And I'll be wrong again. I was wrong on Teddy last year, and I'll pick somebody this year that I'm going to love and be wrong on 3 years in a row.
You know who I love? I love Teddy Bridgewater. You want to know why I love Teddy Bridgewater?
Why?
I don't even know what your answer was after that, but it was hysterical.
Guys, still looking at the passing game in Dallas. Terrence Williams, currently being undrafted. He had 8 TDs on 37 catches in 2014. Last year, 3 touchdowns on 52 catches. I think for a regular fantasy setup, he's a waste of your time. Maybe there's some value in DFS, but I'm not interested in any Terrence Williams, particularly with the Romo down on our passing expectations.
Yeah. I mean, I was shocked that he's not getting he doesn't have an ADP at all, so he's not getting drafted whatsoever. I was a little surprised because last year he was a big sleeper for a lot of people, myself included, and the year just kind of went south. So I think a lot of people soured on Terrence Williams. Kind of wasn't his fault. He was like the only healthy, active dude that they had in the wide receiver game. So I might take like a late flyer on Terrence Williams. Nothing crazy though. Like it's got to be like 13th round or something later than that.
So.
Yeah, like a last round pick we've seen there. Why not?
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
All right, and let's talk tight end, guys. Jason Witten. Quite frankly, I think you just spin the wheel. He's going with the 9th pick in the 13th round. Witten, he was always good. He's steady. I think he's got a good floor, but he doesn't have the upside that he used to. I don't think you're drafting Witten.
Do we know how old Jason Witten is? 34.
Wow. Yeah. I was going to say 32.
Yeah.
So not young.
No. Nope. Old man Witten is he's on his way. So I just think you spin the wheel. Vinny, where did you say Julius Thomas was going?
He's the 10th tight end off the board. He is currently going first pick in the 9th round.
Okay. Yeah, whatever. Forget about Jason Witten. Do you guys feel differently?
No, there's a ton of people that are going before him, and I'd rather have most of those guys.
Yeah.
All right. Guys, I think that just about does it for the Cowboys. Is there anybody else you guys want to hit?
That's it for me, man.
Don, good?
We're good.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to hear from nohalftime.com, and we will be right back.
You're staring at your weekly fantasy opponent and thinking to yourself, I would love to challenge just one of his players, not his entire team. But your fantasy sports service doesn't allow you to. Now you can on the all-new No Halftime app. The No Halftime app allows you to create individual challenges using players or teams.
For example, you could pit Beckham versus Brown, Cam versus Rodgers, or even Ezekiel Elliott versus AP. Creating a challenge takes seconds, and accepting challenges is even easier. No halftime challenges can be private or public and created for the NFL, MLB, NBA, NHL, PGA, and other sports. Join today and get started. Real money and fantasy supremacy awaits you. And now you can also try No Halftime for free with $0 challenges. Visit nohalftime.com for more information and to download the No Halftime app for your iPhone or Android device. Receive a bonus by entering in the promo code LTFF at sign up. Receive a free t-shirt when you make a deposit. No Halftime, where the fantasy sports season never takes a break.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So you just heard from nohalftime.com. Great place. Download the app and use the promo code LTFF for a free sign-up bonus. And, guys, this brings us to the second half of the podcast today. We're going to talk the Giants, and Walsh and Rodgers will be back on later in the week to talk about the rest of the NFC East. But, guys, let's start the QB position for the Giants. Eli Manning, his ADP, third pick in the 9th round. This is actually where Ed's question of the week comes in, guys. He says, would you be confident with Eli as your only QB if you decide to wait on the position? Vinny, let's start with you. What do you see in Eli? Do you like him, and would you feel confident if he was your only QB?
I do like Eli a lot this year. They brought in Sterling Shepard, who we'll talk about later. So they kind of buffed up the passing game. They do have a great offense, and Eli was he ended his QB 10 last year. Those numbers are a little inflated because of that New Orleans shootout, which he put up like almost 40 points in a normal league where touchdowns are 4 points for passing. So I'm looking at him, and I do really like what he could do, but he's always prone to having the Eli games. Bottom line on Eli this year for me is I would be fine if I wound up waiting and had Eli as my guy. I'd kind of just leave him in almost all year unless he really started sucking or anything like that, because he can have those big blow-up games, and he'll have those 7-6-point Eli games where he throws 4 picks.
Yeah, I wouldn't say the word confident. I would say more of like I would feel fine, like Vinny was saying. They're just like, I got Eli. Last year, actually, with McAdoo's offense was like his best year statistically. So I think this year, I think this is going to be a even more monster of a year for Odell. Like this is going to be the year that like Odell really breaks away from everyone, and it's going to be big for Eli as well for productivity fantasy wise. They just added another piece, which we're going to talk about too, with Sterling Shepard, which they're talking highly about, and if, it's a big if, but if Victor Cruz comes back healthy, I mean, there's a lot more to play with than, Ruben Randall as your number 2. So, that's a lot that I'm sure that McAdoo is licking his chops at right now for Eli to have a great year with. And, I'm fine with Eli, and I'm higher on him than I ever was any other year.
Fair enough. Yeah, I agree with Don on the terminology. I'm fine if he's your guy. Don't feel necessarily great, but like you said, McAdoo came in. He's been a huge help. I mean, since he took over as offensive coordinator 2 years ago, guys, the Giants ranked 5th in snaps and 2nd in no huddle rate. What else we got? Manning guys produced 7 top 12 fantasy quarterback weeks last season, with 3 coming in the final month. So we saw the flashes. If it can continue. Yeah, and if that's what you want to do, if you're going to stay QB late at that point, you're probably willing to play the wire anyway. If you decided you're gonna marry yourself to Eli at least temporarily, you're going to play the wire and see who pops at some point. So I think you're okay if that's what you decide to do. And obviously, it depends on your leagues. Do they let QBs fall, or do you have to pay up? And that's individual situations that everyone has to kind of figure out. But guys, we all kind of hit on him. Odell Beckham, 4th pick in the 1st round. Like you said, Don, you think this is the year kind of he breaks away. He's tallied the most receiving yards in the first 2 years of a career since Randy Moss. He's going to thrive under McAdoo's pass-happy offense. So, I think he could be the number 2 wide receiver off the board. I like Julio, but I think you could easily make the argument that it should be Odell instead of Julio. Right now as the number 2 wide receiver. But Don, what do you see in Odell?
Greatness.
One word.
No, I mean the guy is he's an athlete, man. He can do pretty much anything. I mean, his jumping ability, his speed, I mean, he can catch just pretty much about anything. So he's got the full package, and he's just that next tier compared to even the star receivers. So he's the real deal, and I'm cool with him even being a number one receiver. Like, I would kind of debate on it. I mean, obviously he doesn't have the size of Julio, so, it's pretty much a coin toss between the two, but he's a freak, man, and he's in a good system with Eli and McAdoo, and it's going to be a really great season for him.
Vinny, anything to add?
Nah, not really. I think Don pretty much got it. He's a freak. There's really no reason that he can't finish wide receiver 1 this year. Only knock on him is he is a little bitch, and I think he cost Don a fantasy championship this past year.
He did.
And yeah, I mean, I'm really nitpicking on that one to find a flaw with Odell Beckham, but
yeah, obviously, I mean, well, they did talk about it though. So obviously, before this whole Josh Norman thing happened, like, there was flashes of his attitude that they apparently were like trying to work on this season, or that season. So I guess that's one thing we hope we don't see again. I hope he would have learned after that game, after being suspended, and after making me lose a championship. I'm pretty sure it was what hit him the most. But other than that, the dude's a freak. He's going to catch a lot of balls.
Don, you're growing up into a beautiful young man. You don't hold fantasy grudges anymore. You still like Beckham despite him fucking you over.
And it's weird, because sometimes I really do hold some serious grudges, but I think Odell, he's just whatever, man. I just think that I'm not going to deny he's just too good to hold a grudge against. He's going to perform, so maybe I'll take him this year and I'll win a championship.
Only time will tell. Only time will tell, guys. But let's talk about Sterling Shepard. Guys, currently being drafted the 5th pick in the 11th round. NJ.com expects the Giants' second-round wide receiver to be an instant impact player. And I think really the Giants were a premier landing spot for him in the draft. There's a thin depth chart behind Odell Beckham. There's 87 unaccounted for targets with Ruben Randle going to Philadelphia. So I think now's the time for Sterling Shepard. He was productive at Oklahoma, and he's going to help take away some coverage from Odell.
So you think he's going to take productivity away from Odell?
No, I mean he's going to take coverage away. So I think it's a good thing for Odell.
Yeah. No, I got you. Yeah.
The only knock I have on this situation with Sterling Shepard is he's primarily a slot dude, and he'll be like a high-volume catch kind of guy. The one problem that for them in the Giants' offense is they don't have a number 2 guy to put on the outside opposite Odell Beckham, and they move Odell Beckham around as it is. So I'm a little worried about Shepard and kind of what his role is going to be in the offense, because if they don't have a number 2, they can focus in on just those 2 guys, because who else do they have? They have Dwayne Harris and Victor Cruz, who's God knows what that dude is doing. So I'm just a little concerned that maybe the system might not be as perfect as we think it is for Sterling Shepard to go off. And to give you guys an idea of where he's going, he's not going in a horrible spot right now. It's completely fine. It's late in the 11th round at pick 6. People going around him, wide receivers, are like Mohamed Sanu, Vincent Jackson. So if you want to take a flyer on him, if he stays there, by all means, absolutely do it. Just be a little, temper your expectations, because we're not sure if the Giants system will be able to balance out what they have right now.
That's fair.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll keep our eye on Shepard. We'll see how he moves up and down the board, kind of as we move into August, training camp, see him on the field. But it's a good point, Vinny, for the hype may get a little out of control on Shepard there. So we'll keep our eye on him. Guys, let's talk Victor Cruz. He never made it back to the field last year. Banged up. It's a shame, a guy that was so talented. But the injury, we talked about this, I think, on an earlier podcast about the number of guys that come back from this injury that return even close to what their previous production was. It's super, super small group. Just as a person, I hope to see Victor Cruz back on the field, because he was a talented player. Right now he's going with the second pick in the 12th round. I'll be honest, I don't really know anything about his recovery or where he stands, but right now I can't believe he's worth that pick.
Not at all. We saw what happened to young Donald here last year, and it just didn't pan out for him.
Yeah, I'm not going to hold a grudge, because that was just my own stupidity. Let's go on an upset, guys, all right? Let's try to be risky.
You were risky. You nailed the risk part.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I hope he does come back. I don't think he'll ever come to the form that he was if he even comes back. But, I'm not a Giants fan, but being that he's in my hometown here, I hope to see him come back and play. But he's not going to, even then, he's not going to have the production that he did before he was injured. So he's been really away for 2 seasons, coming off some serious injuries, and it's going to be tough. So.
Yeah, I would advise people not to waste the pick.
Yep, look elsewhere.
Without being too mean to Victor Cruz. I feel like we're very mean to him, so just
we are, but
don't do it.
You're being mean.
I am being mean.
All right, Victor Cruz. We'll say goodbye for now. Let's talk about the running game in New York. This kind of sucks. It always has. But Rashad Jennings, guys, is currently going as the 12th pick in the 8th round. The New York Post's Paul Schwartz believes that the Giants running back Andre Williams is competing for a roster spot. So I think there's obviously competition. We're going to talk about him, Shane Vereen. They've got the rookie Paul Perkins, a lot of bodies. But, Rashad Jennings, guys, 2015 season, he finished top 20 in fantasy scoring. First time ever he played for 16 games. But he only had 48% of the rushing attempts for the team. So, they move the ball around a little too much for my liking on Rashad Jennings. And he's not young either. He's 31. I don't know if he's turning 32 soon, but he's just never done the 16 games more than once. So I'm not a fan.
Yeah, he's a young 31.
Okay.
But that's anything because 31.
He'll be 32 after this season.
Yeah, it's 31 still not young for a running back either way. But I mean, I think you got to really take in what they did last season with the running backs and just that's it. They were just very underwhelming. Not really anything you can lean on. I don't think anything of that's really going to change. I think it's going to be more of a passing offense that you can really look forward to, and that's about it.
Yeah, this has a chance to be just a really a huge mess, more so than it was last year. But the one guy I am getting kind of excited about is Paul Perkins, and doing research for this fantasy podcast, and they have him listed as the poor man's Jamal Charles, and he just he kind of does all the little things. Like, he's not fast, he's not too big, but he does all the little things, as they say, and he has great feet and competes. And I was watching a lot of his highlights, and they were insane. Like, the dude, they said he could have been touted as one of the up there with Ezekiel Elliott if he was a little bit bigger. Like, the dude is tiny. I don't have his height on here, but he's a littler guy. But it's just a pretty much a nice value pick for the Giants in the draft, especially with the shitty backfield that they have. So watch out for Paul Perkins and what he does this preseason to see if he slates himself a role in the offense. Because right now he's going 4th pick in the 13th round. If you're waiting on running back and you want to take a flyer on this guy, I think I'm going to probably do that a lot this year.
Yeah, I agree. He's definitely worth the dart throw, and we'll see. He may carve himself out more of a role there. Obviously, guys, we just talked about Andre Williams, and then the other back you have there is Shane Vereen. He's currently within 2 picks of Paul Perkins there, according to Fantasy Football Calculator. So Shane Vereen, guys, he had 61 carries in 2015, but he ranked 4th in targets amongst running backs in the league with 74. So he finished as running back 26 in PPR league. So if you were playing in a PPR league, you're not pumped on it, but he was productive to some extent. In standard leagues, he was the number 39 running back. You don't want any part of it. But I feel like this is who Shane Vereen is. He's just always kind of been the PPR value at some points, but you never know when to trust it.
Yeah, not at all. He's like CJ Spiller. Like, we talk him up every offseason like he's going to do something, and he never does much, and we waste picks on him. I'm done. I'm done caring about Shane Vereen.
It's a very accurate comparison. All right. That's it for the running game, guys, I think, for us, and we'll go and talk about the tight ends, which I don't really think we need to necessarily talk about, but Vinny's favorite, Larry Donnell, and Will Tye there as tight ends. I don't think you're drafting either of them. I think you're just rolling the dice or spinning the wheel with tight end roulette.
Yeah. Just panic streamers.
Don, are you great?
Yeah, just spin the wheel, bro.
Spin the wheel. All right. Guys, anything else on the Giants here?
Boom. Nope.
Nope. All right. Well, let's hand it off to Don here for the Timmy treat of the week. What do we got, Don?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a hard one, since we were kind of just talking up some value on people. But I'm going to give it to probably one that's won it last year, too, at some point, is Ruben Randall. Because, Ruben Randall, you just couldn't give Giants a solid number 2, which leaves us uncertain about Sterling Shepard, which makes us uncertain when we should be certain about it and be excited for that Giants passing offense and their productivity. So, yet again, screw you, Ruben Randall, you talentless piece of poop.
And there you have it, folks. Ruben Randall, Don is not a fan, and he has endorsed you as the Timmy treat of the week. So, guys, that's going to about do it for us here for the part 1 of the NFC East preview. Coming at you guys on Friday, we're going to have the NFC East part 2 with Walsh and Rogers. They're going to have an interview with Bruce from NoHalftime.com as well. And as always, we'll be talking fantasy football. So, guys, until next time, we'll catch you on the flip side.
This has been Let's Talk Fantasy Football. Thanks for listening.